Good afternoon. My name is Michelle Dudek. I'm thrilled to be here with you this afternoon. I am from New Hampshire, and I've been training with LEGO Education since 2017. And I will let Susan introduce herself, and then we can pull up the PowerPoint.
My name's Susan McGrath. Welcome. Really glad that you're here today. I am a LEGO certified teacher trainer like Michelle and have been doing that for about 3 years. And I work as a district-wide digital learning coach in Lexington, Kentucky.
Okay, so I'm going to start us off. And again, welcome. We're thrilled to have you joining us for the first in our series of 3 webinars to get you started with your Spike Prime set. Um, in the chat area, if you want to let us know where you're joining us from this evening, it would be great to just kind of get a feel for where we're all coming from. Like I said, I'm in New Hampshire, and we are going to have a lot of fun together tonight. I do just want to remind you that this is being recorded. So if you feel like things are going a little quickly, or you feel like you might miss something, you will have the option to go back to this recording as many times as you want and kind of fill in those blanks. So I'm kind of toggling back and forth to see what we're getting in the chat area. I don't know, Susan, if you can see some and see where people are coming from.
I can't.
Yes, chat area either. We're getting people from all over the place. I know some people, this is the beginning of the school year, so welcome back to school. But for now, we're going to dive right into the webinar. All right. So our goals for tonight, and we're going to be here for about an hour, we want to figure out, how do I prepare my Spike Prime solution to use in the classroom? And what are those LEGO education resources that are available to educators? So we've broken our evening kind of into those 2 parts, and it looks like, just from getting a quick glimpse of the survey that you took when you first logged in, it looks like a lot of you have your kits with you, and most of you have unboxed them, which is exciting. That means that kind of saves us a little bit of time, although I'm still going to walk through the entire unboxing process for those people who haven't done that. And really briefly, our agenda for tonight, we'll walk through getting organized. I'll provide you with different ideas for use in your classroom with your students, how to keep all those elements together, what happens when you lose an element, naming, all of those good things. We'll take a look at the Spike app. We will go live to the various websites and the app itself and figure out how to connect and rename the hubs. So all of those getting started practical pieces. We'll take a look at the getting started lessons. So what are those initial steps that you want to take, both as you're looking at it yourself, but then also with your students? And finally, we will take a look at the additional resources that LEGO Education has to offer to support you in your journey with your students, in your curriculum, using the Spike Prime set. All right, so what's here? This is the exciting part, unboxing. I'm going to take my time, explain what's there, and then walk through a couple of things, and then we'll kind of get our hands into the set and provide time to label if you need to, and to unpack things. So don't feel like you have to rush and keep up with what I'm talking about for right now. Okay. Again, use the chat area. If you do have questions as I go, Amanda, I'm going to throw this out there to you because I can't see the chat. I know you're monitoring the chat, so just interrupt, give me a heads up if I need to go over something again, or if there are some big burning questions that I need to revisit, okay?
You got it, Michelle.
Excellent, thank you. Um, so in this beautiful yellow box, there are 523 pieces. That includes various Lego elements, bricks and connectors, and motors and the hub and some sensors. So there's lots of exciting things in the box if you haven't had a chance to look at them yet. As you're looking through it, you might say to yourself, especially if you haven't used these with students yet, oh my gosh, how am I going to keep all of these pieces together? I'm going to throw out some ideas as I walk through this, but one of the fun tips and tricks that I've learned along the way that I kind of love to start with, you're opening or you're doing a lesson and a student drops a brick. Get your students into the habit of some fun saying. For example, fairly loudly, not too loudly, but fairly loudly, Lego down. So I drop a brick and I say Lego down. And that means that everybody in the classroom freezes. Okay, because you don't want that. If you've got linoleum floors, the thing could, just slide. You don't want the Lego bricks getting, kind of getting lost in the shuffle. So everybody freezes. Student or students find that element, they pick it up, they put it back, and then they say Lego found, and everybody can resume their session and their working. So that's something that I've heard from many teachers that works really, really well. So that's one tip for kind of keeping all of those elements together. In the box itself, you have this, I don't know if you're even going to be able to see this on my screen, but you have this card in the very top, and this is great directions to show you how to organize and keep organized the box. It's also kind of an element guide and directions, so you know exactly what is supposed to be there. I would recommend, if possible, that you have one kit that you keep as the teacher kit, kind of that that one that you're responsible for, or your team of teachers is responsible for, so that you have time and a kit that's all put together so that you can prep some of those lessons and do some experimenting on your own, and have that ability to just to test and prepare and plan using your own kit that you know is there and has all of those elements because you're responsible for that. If that's not possible, that's not the end of the world. You just use one of the student sets when they're not using it, just to kind of test and prep and do your lesson planning. It certainly works both ways. But if possible, I definitely recommend having that one set to keep as your own, or for, like I said, for your team of teachers, depending on how things are set up in your school, in your classroom. Okay. You can choose to have your students unbox the sets. So if you are brand new to this and you have this huge delivery of boxes sitting in your classroom, and just the time, right? It's so exciting, but also overwhelming. Everything is set up really logically, so it is okay to go through with your students as kind of that first introductory lesson to unbox everything together. Also, it's okay to do it on your own, or a team of teachers unbox and get everything set for your students. Again, that's really going to depend on your situation, your comfort level. Okay. Let's see. So I talked about that top card that is kind of your directions, and the front of that also has really kind of your getting started directions. It tells you right where to go as far as the website goes, which is legoeducation.com/start. And that will walk you through the whole getting started process. Again, if you feel like you're missing something from us tonight, that's a great place to go and start, and get yourself started. Okay. The set itself, that yellow box, has 2 trays in the top, and then underneath, right now, if it's not unboxed, underneath it has all of your bags of elements, and it also has the sensors, the motor, the hub, and the battery. You'll notice that the white part on the top of the card is suggesting that the very first thing you do is take your battery out and put it into your hub. I agree, that's probably the first thing you want to do. And those are housed in 2 separate boxes in the bottom of that yellow box. Okay. Those 2 compartments, those white compartments on the top, the 2 trays that have the different compartments, those each hold certain types of elements. So there's one compartment that's meant to hold the beams. There's another that holds the wheels and gears. There's another for the connectors, et cetera, et cetera. It makes organization and keeping track of things a lot easier and logical for the students. So it's nice to have kind of that organization set. Okay. If you lift up the sorting tray, you'll find, if it's not opened yet, you'll find those plastic bags with the numbers. The great thing is that the elements come pre-sorted in numbered bags. So that's why it's really easy to do with your students. You can just have them, okay, open bag number 1 and dump it into this tray or this compartment of this tray. There is also a bag of replacement pieces in the bottom there. I can't stress this enough. Take those replacement pieces in their bag. Do not open the bag. Take them out and keep them someplace safe, out of the reach of your students, because you will need those at some point. And you definitely don't want your students to just open those bags and mix all the elements, those pieces in with everything else. So hide those, lock those up, and then access them as you see fit and as you need those. We talked about the Spike Prime hub and the battery. That's like the brain of the set. The motors and the sensors are in there. And then there's this sheet of stickers. And the stickers are where you're going to label the compartments. So it's a very visual, and it helps your students and you just keep things really, really organized. Okay? And it makes for quick sorting. You'll also find in the stickers, there are blank white labels, and we'll talk about that in just a few minutes, but labeling your set is going to become really, really important. So those white stickers, I do suggest using a permanent marker for the labeling. I've tried it with a pen or some other writing utensils, and really permanent marker is the best. It's the only thing that kind of stays on there. Okay. All right. That's what's in the box, that exciting piece. So next, let's talk about the naming protocol. So why is naming important, first of all? There are several reasons why naming is important. And what you want to name would be the exterior of the box, the hub itself, each individual sensor, and then the hub will get named in the app also. And so the reason you want to name your sets is so that pieces, elements don't go missing or don't get mixed up with other sets. It helps your students be responsible for their sets and their kits. It keeps organization much easier, more streamlined, keeps things together. You'll know if something goes missing, say one of your motors goes missing, you'll know which kit, and you find one on the floor, you know which kit it goes in. You don't have to go searching through every single box until you find a missing motor. Within your classroom or your program or your school or your district, I suggest coming up with a very clear naming protocol that's used across the board. For example, I typically just use my last name and then numbers. So DUDEC 1 and DUDEC 2. And then I would have, kind of my master set, my teacher set that I call, DUDEC teacher. That's what my naming protocol is. Again, you can come up with whatever it is that works best for your school and your system, but you want that consistent naming protocol. So those labels inside of your set on that sticker sheet, there will be one for each of your sensors, each of your motors, and then your hub itself. And then a little further through the evening, we're going to actually walk you through connecting and renaming your hub in the app, because what happens is if those hubs are not named, it gets really confusing when all of your students are trying to connect via Bluetooth and run their programs, and we're not sure which hub belongs to which. Okay. So another couple of classroom management tips that I have that go along with naming. whenever possible, I recommend that you assign your groups of students to a specific box for a specific period of time, whether it's for a unit or for a project or for the year. Again, whatever works for your system. But what happens when I assign Susan and Amanda, when I assign them box JUDEC 1 for this first unit that we're going to do in science class, they become responsible for that set. They get a real sense of ownership and responsibility because they know that if they're careless with their pieces, and if they drop a piece and they don't bother doing the, Lego down, Lego found protocol, and they just kind of let it roll on the floor and, whatever, we'll see what happens to it. That they're going to go back the next day and they're not going to be able to finish their build because they're going to be missing this part or that part. It prevents pieces from, kind of disappearing from the box, minifigs, things like that, because again, they take responsibility for that set. So I know that's not always a possibility, but, and it's very possible and okay if you're, in this classroom in period 1, everybody has their assigned sets, but then those sets are also reused for period 2. That's okay. You can still assign, box 1 to, period 1, Susan and Amanda, and period 2, Joe and Andy. That also helps you when you're picking things up or you're reviewing, to be able to kind of keep track of, where your students are at and what their set looks like, and all of those kind of organization pieces. Now, for pieces that do end up just kind of out there, and at the end of the period, you find one on the floor, or there's one left on a desk, whatever the element may be, or somebody walks into your classroom. So your next door neighbor or colleague walks into your classroom and steps on a Lego brick and says, "Oh, hey, where does this go?" You have no idea. So if you can have a container kind of centrally located, it kind of stays in the same spot. Everybody knows where it is. Students, the cleaning crew at your school, your colleagues. So if a brick is found or an element is found, it just automatically goes into that kind of lost and found box. And then that way, when Susan comes to me tomorrow and says, "Oh, Mrs. Dudek, I don't know where my small motor is," I can say, "Well, have you checked the lost and found box?" So that also kind of helps minimize pieces that just go missing, and having to use your replacement packs or order replacement packs. So just kind of another idea to throw out there. Okay. I'm going to do a brief check-in with Amanda. How's the chat room looking? Is there anything that I need to address at this point?
Nothing yet. A lot of people have asked, and yes, there will be a recording later. That's our popular question at the moment.
Okay, definitely there will be a recording later. And if I am moving too quickly through things, just holler at me. That's not a problem. Okay. All right, let's move on to the next section. And this is where we're actually going to sort and label. And I'm going to just switch over really quickly to see where we're at with how many people have their sort of, okay. So there are some people who need to sort and label, which is great. All right. So what you can do, if you don't have a naming protocol already in place, or you don't have one in mind, or you're working with a team of teachers who are not with you tonight, that's perfectly fine. You don't need to actually label everything tonight, but you can put those stickers on there. But I would say let's get started by taking your trays out. You will use this card, that comes in the top, kind of as your guide, and take the stickers and place them accordingly, according to the card and according to the sticker sheet itself, onto the right compartments. Now, you want to place your stickers on the side of the compartments. I have actually done this before. I've put them on the bottom.
Yeah.
And then I all my bricks in there, and I'm like, oh, that doesn't make any sense, does it? Because if I put my stickers on the bottom and then I put my bricks on top, I can't see what's supposed to be in there. So put your stickers on the sides of the compartments. And then that way it's a really quick visual for you and for your students to know where to put all of those different elements. Okay.
Michelle, when you
Yeah.
say the side, are you referring to the inside of the tray or the outside of the tray?
So my tray is full right now, and let me see, I'll hold this up so you can see it. So this is my tray. I'm going to try to do it without dumping it. And so my labels are on the inside edges of the trays. Amanda, you guys can see that okay?
Yes.
Awesome. That was a really good question. So I know that takes a few minutes to place all of those nice and straight. Sometimes that's one of the hard parts about having your students go through this process is the stickers might be a little cockeyed, and some of us have a little anxiety over that, but
Not us.
never, right? No.
Michelle, there's components that go on the bottom under the trays as well, correct?
Yes, there are. So you will notice, and actually if I hold up this card again, I love this directions card. So if I hold this up again, so these are your trays, this gray area with the pieces that go in there. And then anything that's, sorry, over here, anything that's down here kind of on the outside, these are all of the elements and the components that actually get stored underneath those trays in the bottom of the yellow box. So those you can just, set down underneath there. Once you have your stickers all set up, then you can just open each bag and dump the contents into the correct compartment. Everything's labeled for you. And while you're doing that, I am going to point this trick out for you. So this box right here it's a one-to-one. It shows you how to measure the different elements, the different axles, because they don't have any studs on them. And so you'll see in the building directions that it will call for for a 4, for example. So that little map, you can hold your axles up to that and measure because it's a 1-to-1 ratio. Or the other trick is that you can lay it against a Technic brick with the holes or a regular brick with the studs, and you can count the number of holes or studs, and that's the length of the axle. The length of the axle is always indicated by a number and a circle around it, and just like on here. So, and it's probably easier for you to look at your own, but it gives you the lengths of 3, 4, 5, et cetera, and they all have the little circles around them. So that's how you know what that's referring to. Okay. So I would ask at this point, if you just want to throw into the chat area, are you good to go as far as labeling? What questions do you have as far as unboxing, sorting, labeling, naming, other classroom tips and tricks? So kind of a review of what we've done so far. Just give us a brief shout out in the chat area of how you're feeling, if you have any questions, and if you're ready to move on. I don't want to move us too quickly.
Yeah, if you have any tips to share, if you've already unboxed, and we would love to hear if you have any classroom management for that. We'd love to hear your strategies.
Yes, we had one person suggest that she did her stickers on the top and it was easy to see.
The top, can you clarify that?
Sure. Tara, if you've got extra notes for doing on the top, that would be great. All right, we've got lots of goods, but a couple questions. So
Okay.
One question is, what one kit is for 2 students? Is that accurate?
That is accurate. Now, that can be a little, adjustable as needed. Sometimes you have an odd number of students in class, but ideally it's 2-to-1, so 2 students per kit.
Great. Another question is feeling good about Prime, the deluxe kit. So Ryan, if you're referring to the expansion kits, his question is that essentially the same?
Susan, do you want to answer that one?
The expansion kits would be more if you're going to do some competitions with your students. So it is not the same kit, but it's a great kit to have, especially if you're leaning towards robotics, bringing it into a robotics team, or for a competition purposes. If you have First Lego League or you want to start a First Lego League in your area, those would be great to have, the expansion kits. Yes. I hope that answered that.
Yeah, Ryan, let us know if that's what you're referring to or if it's something else. And then Tara said she put them on the top of the tray instead of the inside for the stickers.
Okay, so I'm the top of the tray.
So I think
are these lips over here?
Like the little lips, maybe?
On the little lips. Tara wants to show and tell, so let me let her show. Let me find you in the list. Hold
I can't wait.
Give me 1 second, Tara. I have to find you. There you are. Allow camera. Oh, great. Okay, so that looks like the Spike Essential Kit, and those are exactly where I think they're supposed to be for that one.
Yeah, with the colored, yes.
Right. Yes. Each kit is a little, the Prime and the Essential, they're a little different. The organization is a little different. So yes, they do go on the top for the Essential. Yeah. I don't think for the Prime, I don't think the stickers will easily fit on the top. I don't think the lips are quite big enough.
And the Spike Prime is not by color, like
right.
Michelle mentioned before. It's basically by element. So although I've heard schools that have gone to color and and done their own thing, but yeah, that's really nice with that Spike Essential, which is part of the Lego learning system that you can employ with the Spike Prime.
And then one last question before we move on. The blue wheels, there are 4 of them. Are they the same size?
Yes, they are.
I think the expansion kit has bigger, I want to say it has bigger wheels, but don't quote me on that.
All right. Those are the questions for now. Love those. Keep them coming throughout.
Great. Thank you. And I'm going to turn this over to Susan for a while.
Okay. So now, thank you, Michelle. Awesome job with that physical part. Part of your kit where students will do the builds, but part of Spike Prime, as you know, is coding. And so we're going to talk for a few minutes here about the app. And I'm going to get off of the slide deck in just a moment to show you how that works, how you can get the app on your device. Just to let you know that I will be on a Windows PC machine, but you can use a Macintosh machine, iPad, and Chromebooks. So all of which will automatically show up when you use the app, downloadable app. So that's the first thing I want to talk to you about. We have a new launched web app for Spike. It's the Spike app. It contains Spike Essential and Spike Prime. And so I'm going to be talking about the web app and then the downloadable app. Which would download onto your device. So many of us are used to the downloadable app, which you can still do, but we now have a web browser for the app as well that's in beta. And so just wanted to make you aware of that. The Spike Prime app from the downloads page that I'll show you here in a moment is going to require an installation of the app, which means you might have to get with your IT department like I do, wish I had all the powers, but I don't, to download or install that app for your PCs, your tablets, your iPads, your Chromebooks. But the web app, you wouldn't have to do that. It's something you would just pull up on your web browser, and both apps are absolutely free. They can be downloaded to any device that meets those system requirements. Okay. So again, there's going to be two different places we can go. We can now go to a web app or a downloadable installed app on your device. All right, so I'm going to get out of here. Give me just a minute to navigate all the things. So I'm actually going to be using the downloadable app, but I'm first going to show you how to get on to and hopefully you guys tell me if you can't see my screen. How we doing?
So far, so good.
Thank you, Michelle. Okay, so I am going to go to legoeducation.com, or I'm going to type education.lego.com, or I'm just going to Google Lego Education and it's going to come up. All of the resource links that we're using tonight, you will receive in a follow-up email with the recording. So you don't have to know exactly where we're going right now and say, oh gosh, where is she going? I will say them a couple of times, but know that you will receive a set of all the links we go to, which isn't that many, but just so you know, you have that coming to you in a follow-up. So this again is legoeducation.com, education.lego.com, or in just your search engine, Lego Education. And you'll see up at the top, we have 3 tabs: a Discover, Shop, and Teach section. You'll also see a search. You can choose your country for your language, shopping cart, and etc. there. So we're going to go to the Teach menu item, again, at education.lego.com. In that, you'll see, and this is relatively new if you've been on the site before, you'll see the Spike app. So you also see some other things that we're going to talk about a little bit tonight, but in our next webinars as well. So we'd love for you to join us then. I'll go to the Spike app, and then it's going to default. You can see it said Chromebook for a minute, but it went to Windows 10. And so it should default to the device that you're using at the time. It'll have system requirements and web app instructions at the bottom. And then over here, it'll have a drop down for what you want to choose. If you want to launch the web app, get the app, or download. If you, again, have the ability to download without your IT, or if you're on your personal device, you can go to download, or you can hit launch the web app. I'm going to be in the web app tonight. Oh, no, excuse me. I'm going to be in the downloaded app, but you can go to the launch web app. Okay. So again, that is at education.lego.com. Under the Teach menu, go to Spike app. You can choose your device if it doesn't default, and then you have options here. Okay. So I've already downloaded mine, so I am going to open that up for you now.
Susan, can I just chime in for 1 second?
Sure.
If you are using the web app, I believe it only works with the Chrome browser.
With Google Chrome?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you.
And we have
Thank
a couple questions, and I'm pulling some resources to share for them. But the web app, is it reliable enough for a class setting, and what are limitations? I've got a couple blogs I'm going to share too, but I'd love your perspectives as well.
I have used, we've used the web app in a classroom, and then using the app has been wonderful. Like your internet at your school might be an issue. I work in a larger district, so we haven't had issues with the spike. So I would suggest if you've had internet issues before with students getting on for testing or whatnot, that you might use the downloadable version. But they've worked out a lot of the kinks. Michelle, do you have anything to contribute to that?
No, I think exactly what you said. I've used both of them with teachers at this point, and they both have worked fine. I haven't found any significant issues with either.
Gotcha. Thank you. Is that good, Amanda? Do we have any other questions?
Yes, there's
Was-
one, but it's a website question, and if
Gotcha.
if you're not on the US version of the site, your options might be different. I'm going to look into that for you though.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, so again, put questions in the chat. That's what that's there for, and we'll get to those questions. So when you're in the app, mine is in Spike Prime, but you'll be asked to choose between Spike Essential on the left and Spike Prime on the right. So if you have Spike Essential, which we've got some people with that, which is wonderful, you could choose that section, or you could go to the Spike Prime as well. So just to remind you that's a little different when I'm on the downloaded version here. So it'll give us a little intro. And then I'm going to hit start. Also, all the things that Michelle talked about are right here on the left if you want to go to that teacher preparation material section as a review. Okay, so I plugged my hub in. So right now, if you've got your hub is the biggest piece in your whole set. It's yellow and it has a white top where the light matrix will show up for you here shortly. If you've plugged the rechargeable battery in, that's great. Correct me if I'm wrong, ladies, but I think you're going to have, when you first get your kits, you have about 4 hours of charged battery.
I found that it varies drastically.
Okay.
In most cases, you have a handful of hours. I've had a few situations where there isn't much battery life initially.
Thank you. So that's something to think about to charge if you have a USB station. I have several teachers that have those in their maker spaces or in their libraries, but definitely to get a charge when it's plugged into their device, which we'll be talking about in later webinars, that it will charge as you're plugged in here. So one thing I want to mention that happened to me today is when you first plug your hub in, it may need an update. And so those updates may take a while depending on the device. I've had some that get stuck at 50% and sit there for a while. So maybe a good idea to check those for updates, or just know that at the beginning, that might be the first thing you have students do, is put that battery in and then plug it into their device with the app open so it can do an update. And so now mine is prompting me after the update to give my hub a unique name. And this is where Michelle talked about before, when we're naming our kits, having that same name on the hub is great too. They can just look at the label, and if mine is SP1, then I have that name there. And so then I'm good to go. Okay. We're also going to get into the app and connect, and show you just a minute how to connect, and then where it can be named there as well. So now, once I've hit enter, I'm on the platform for getting started with Spike Prime. And so this is where all the magic happens. So we're going to go through lessons in our next webinar, but I'm going to hit start here. There's also a set of icons at the top for start, units, builds, and my projects. You can also see I've been playing around with recent projects here in this area. You might not have anything there yet. And if I scroll down later on, we're going to tease you in our next webinar. If you would please come, we're going to talk about those lesson plans and building instructions. So I'm going to hit start in my app. And this is a wonderful place to get started yourself and with your students. It's where we start everything in our trainings that Michelle and I give at schools for trainings. And so we'll hit start here. And then I am going to disconnect. I'm already good. Okay. So when I start, if I'm not plugged in or I'm using a Chromebook, I see this connect button right here. And also there's some instruction in our first lesson. So I wanted to show you this little red button here. It means I'm not connected. And this is an important little icon here, is the connection icon. And so I'm going to plug mine back in. And again, I am in just one of the getting started lessons, just following along on the icons that are provided. I just hit start and went to the very first icon that is where you'd want to go with your students. And now I'm going to click on this and you can see my name. I have a lot of information here that we'll go over with you, but something that your students are probably going to see, because they're going to see the same things you're seeing right now, is this rename. And so I'm not going to lie, a lot of my students have changed the names of their hubs to some very creative names. But Michelle mentioned when you have pairs, you might let them name the hub after the pair, like Amanda and Stefan, or John and Tamisha. Like having those names gives them some ownership of their hub, and then they know it's their hub. Or if you're a control freak like me, you might want them to just keep that name that you had on the kit, and or have them rename afterwards. But to rename, you're going to hit rename, and then you can just go in and change that name. And I'm going to call it Susan and save. And so that is where that renaming occurs. Okay. In terms of connection, we just want to make sure, depending on the devices that you have, you can use the USB cable or Bluetooth to connect the hubs. It's recommended that you do the initial time that you do the setup. It's done with a USB if possible. You can plug in the USB like I did, update it, rename the hub, disconnect it, and then move forward to the next hub if you're doing them all at once to name them, or you can give ownership to the students and have them do that as well. All of your kits, as you notice, came with a USB connector. The Bluetooth, you'll see a Bluetooth button. I don't know if you can see it because I'm holding it up to my camera, but there is a Bluetooth button at the top here next to my little light matrix with the heart that you can push to Bluetooth connect as well. That connection can be done to the device first if you'd like. Sometimes I've had better success actually connecting the Bluetooth outside of the Spike downloadable app, but that Bluetooth is there as well.
Susan, if we can interrupt with a question.
Please.
Yep. So first one is, are the same options available in the downloaded app as they are in the web app? I believe they are.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
And then just a note, since it's been a question, the Bluetooth connection is not available currently in the web app version. You will have to use a wired connection. The Spike Essential does allow Bluetooth use in the web app though.
Thank you. Yep. That was next on the list. You're killing it. Do we have any other questions? Because that's a lot, the just connection of it.
No other questions, but a time check that we've got about 15 minutes left.
Okay, well, I'm going to finish up here by just mentioning in our next webinars, we're going to talk about how the app is based on Scratch 3.0 programming language. So a great relationship that LEGO Education has with MIT that developed that language. And so if you've used that in your classrooms or in your computer classes or technology classes, it's wonderful. And so definitely a great language. We also have in Spike Prime Python language ability as well. And so that is a possibility, and we have resources we can share with you for that. Okay. So I'm going to go back to our PowerPoint and kind of finish up here. A little review. I'm skipping all this stuff. Go right here. Share. So just to review, Where you'll get started, Michelle mentioned legoeducation.com/start is a great place to go. The app can be found on that Lego Education site under the Teach tab, and you can find the downloads there. Or if you just want to use the web app for the Google Chrome browser, you go to spike.legoeducation.com, or that downloads page that we were just at. If you need any information on connecting and renaming the hub, you can watch us again, or you can go to the downloaded app. In the downloadable app, there's a help icon at the top, or you can go to product resources on legoeducation.com, and there's some, in the facts section, there's some great help that will answer some of those questions too about connections and web browser issues with Bluetooth and so forth. Okay, so just a few more things. Again, we're going to send you links to all of the resources that we went out to today, which is just a few. But other ones out there that will be on that list is education.lego.com/support. This is where you can go to find technical service questions and help, order help to order more kits. There's a contact us section. There's even a place to order a missing element, which is great. If you can't find that one from Lego Down, then you could order missing elements. Remember, you do have that replacement kit, keeping those out of your kits, but in a special place. And there's also a place there to contact a solutions consultant. You'll also see there is places that offer help resources for grants and funding as well, which is a great place to go. Lots of other things under education.lego.com that we'll be looking at in future webinars, but there's great teacher resources for Spike Prime and all our solutions in the Lego learning system, units and lesson plans, the professional development, which I'm going to talk about next, and place where you can get facilitated professional learning from Lego Education. So there are out in the world Lego Education certified teacher trainers that can come to you to help facilitate professional learning and walk you through these steps as well as lessons and cater to your district for your needs. And so definitely check out that under professional development on that tab. We also would love for you, and I think Amanda will put this in the chat now, is to go to our customer success sign up, our customer success program, by visiting the link that Amanda is going to put in the chat. This is a great place to go, and it's going to be where you can get even more supports from our customer success team. And we'll support you on your journey using Lego Education and the playful learning that you're going to bring to your students, which we are so excited about. You'll get newsletters, monthly newsletters with that for community events, resources for your classroom, ideas of how to use available resources, and again, that support. All right. So I think we've got some time here for question and answers, and then we'll talk to you about those upcoming webinars and how you can connect with us online. So any questions?
I also just launched a follow-up poll to see your confidence level now. So I see some good responses coming in. Oops, someone can't wait to get more hands-on, and we've got a bunch of people feeling more confident.
Awesome, that's great. That's what we're
a
here
question about regional professional development opportunities. There isn't a large group for this person's spot. So Susan, they're asking, do you know of any in the Kentucky area soon that would be in person?
That would be in person. We in Kentucky do KISTI. At KISTI we usually have, which is our kind of ISTE, we call it KISTE for KYSTE, but we do have some there. But if you reach out to our contact, I'm sure we can get with our account manager and set something up for you, because we would love to come out and help. Also through our Kentucky Digital Learning Coaches Society. If you have a digital learning coach at your school, we can connect you with them. We've done some work with them as well. So yeah, definitely, that's exciting.
They say thank you for that answer.
Yay, good.
And good news with our poll, we've got almost a 50-50 split on feeling more confident and can't wait to get more hands-on.
Yay. All right. Well, if you want even more help and more hands-on, we have got some upcoming webinars the next 2 months, on Thursday, September 8th, and on Thursday, October 13th. Emily, did you want to, I don't know if Emily wanted to talk about those.
Hi, sure, thanks. Yeah, you're welcome to join us for those. Even if you have teachers who are using other Lego Education products, I think this might be a great opportunity to kind of share our resources with them, because we're going to be going through and looking at the teacher resources that are available. And then, of course, doing a deeper dive into the community on the October Thursday. So invite your friends, make a little webinar party.
Yay. Amanda, are we good? We have any other questions, or are we?
No other questions yet.
Okay. Well, that next webinar, we're going to take that deep dive, like Emily was talking about, into the unit and lessons. So that is a great time to come if you are, not feeling so confident and you need a little more support. Come to that one. We'll be going through what units are available, what lessons are available, and if we have time, maybe we can even get into a lesson for you. But definitely going through that. I've had teachers that once they've gone through a lesson with a coach or a trainer, they feel great about it. So that's when you can really get hands-on with the hub and how it connects and feel good about that to your device. And if you want to come to that, if you have 2 devices and could bring 2, you could have one with your app and one with the webinar open when we do trainings. But it's not a big deal if you don't, but sometimes that helps as well, just to have one device that maybe your students are going to use and one that you can use for just the webinar, virtual webinar. And then the third one will be great. We'll talk about how you can build that professional learning community for yourself.
We have 2 more questions that just came in. First
great.
one is, they have some brand new teachers to computer science who have never used Spike Prime. Where do you recommend that they start after opening the box?
I would go into that getting started, because the getting started lessons are guided lessons that will literally, like, it has a hand that shows you how to move those word blocks into the coding canvas. It's phenomenal. The little lesson tab that I showed you real quick over on that left-hand side leads students through it. Like you'll see it just how the students will. And so I definitely would suggest starting with those getting started, and it progresses. So it starts with the basics of the coding and how the app, and how you can turn the app, hit go and run your program. You play with the light matrix. It's super fun for students. And then it will progress further through using the sensors, really gets the kids just, what does the sensor do without any other build? So I would highly suggest going through those. That'd be great.
Next question is, do you think students need some previous use of Scratch before using this?
No.
Yeah, I was just going to say to Michelle, yeah, what do you think, Michelle? No, they don't. Yeah, they do not. It show the word blocks are color coded just like Scratch blocks are. And what's wonderful about the lessons is it only shows them certain blocks that they need for the coding. So it doesn't give them, if you've been in Scratch before, it'll give you a whole big list of those, every coding block you could possibly have. What's wonderful about the guided lessons and that Getting Started Too is it shortens that. They have the ability to go in, so it is differentiated for students that could go in and do more or have experience, which is wonderful. It's such a great low floor, high ceiling that LEGO Education provides for students. The differentiation is wonderful, but it will only show them on the screen the blocks they need for the coding. And so they do have to drag them, and they can look at others by clicking on something they really wouldn't know about unless I told you. But it's nice. So I think it's a great start if they've never had coding before.
Great. 2 more questions. Where do we sign up for the next one? If the question was referring to the next webinar, I did drop links for those in the chat for you. But this person did say, when is the next professional development, if you want to share any insight? And I'm going to give you the last question too. Can you show how to charge the hub or give us a good resource on where to find that?
So to charge the hub, you just plug the USB adapter at the top. It's kind of tiny. And I don't know, Michelle, if you have for yours, but you'll see it. The charging outlet there is right at the top on the side, and you'll see a little light there that'll give you an indication that it's fully charged and ready to go. If that light isn't green, then you probably need a charge, and then you just plug that USB into either a USB charging station if you have one at your school that could hold maybe multiple hubs at once, or they can just plug it into their device and it's charging. And you can actually see, let me see if I can move. You can see in that hub connection, you can see the charge. If you click on that hub connector, let me do it again here for you. In the programs, you'll see the charge percentage. So it does give you an indicator there as well as to how much charge it has.
And then I answered part of that question for you online. How do I turn it off? There is a button that you can press and hold.
Oh, yeah.
And then the question, to go back to that last question on more information about professional development.
So that would be going to that website, legoeducation.com. Go to it for you. And if you want to get some professional development, go to Teach and then Professional Development. And we have many different types of professional development. If you scroll down, you'll see self-guided there and also facilitated learning. So you can click on that and then it will have a link for where you can sign up to get some more information. We also are going to talk about on that third webinar, our professional development website. So we do have a self-guided learning site called pd.legoeducation.com. And you can learn more in the self-guided learning section. This is where you can look at 4 different competencies that have videos and small like learning bursts, like 15-minute videos or 15-minute lessons, excuse me, and then learning quests, which are a little longer, but it'll give you product video tutorials, some learning philosophy and resources as well. Does that help?
I think so for now, but I put into the chat if you do have more questions since we're at time, we love them. So please email success@lego.com and we'll follow up.
Yeah. And get on social media and follow. We got lots of places to go on social media and on our websites there. You can hashtag us, and we're so excited that you're bringing that playful learning to your students. So thank you so much.